so much for being here. So today we're really fortunate we've got His Holiness Swami Keshava Maharaj with us. Keshava Maharaj, as a very quick introduction, has been a monk for over 20 years. Oh yeah, Maharaj has been a monk for over 20 years and is widely recognized. He's spoken in many of the finest institutions in the world, both academic and corporate. He's authored over 10 books. He's organized over 50 courses, and it's really, I mean, we've been traveling with him for a while now, and it's amazing to see the impact he's had on people around the world. We're very fortunate to have Maharaj with us today. He's going to be answering some of our questions. So please come. Well, I hope you've come prepared with some of your questions, and Maharaj is here with us to make the most of our time with him. He's going to lead us off with some kirtan first. So, thank you so much. Can we maybe give Maharaj a microphone?
Might be better. So just sit on the floor. I think that would be better. Yeah.
So, Maharaj, Venkatesh asked me just to introduce our group here, just very briefly. So we have the Bhakti Academy, which is part of Krishna House, and so a number of the assembled devotees here are from that. They are living here in the temple, doing that training program. And then we have some visiting guests from our Bhakti Yoga studio, and they are like our friend Stephanie here. And so they've been joining us there. And then we have some friends from the local community, some from Montreal. So you're aware.
I just want to say, like, you don't have to come off the chair just because I want to. No, like, seriously, if anyone just like feels more comfortable on the chair, comfort is important. So by all means, if you feel more comfortable on the chair, that's totally fine. So Hare Krishna everyone, it's really honoured to be back in Toronto with all of you. Is Toronto okay?
Jai!
And with the Krishna House, devotees and Bhakti Academy, is it?
Yes.
Yes, Bhakti Academy. Just out of interest, how many of you were here last year when we did some sessions? Okay, wow. Congratulations for being here 1 year later. It's wonderful, yes. So we have a bit of time this afternoon, and it's very informal. And there's a whole bunch of questions here, which was very intimidating. So yeah, we'll answer some of these questions, and then perhaps some of you may have some live questions you want to ask, so feel free. Radha Madhava Hare Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Krishna Jaya Gora Bhakta Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharye Nirvishesha Ishtamari Ascharya Shakarye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Shri Hare Rama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So thank you so much everyone for coming on a Friday. On a Friday afternoon, and really happy to be here. So we thought we'd do a few questions and answers, and I guess there are some pre-prepared questions here. So I guess I could go through some of these, but perhaps you may also have some live questions you may want to ask. So maybe what I'll do is I'll go like this one. I'll skip out all the difficult ones. Alright, great. Does anyone in the crowd want to begin with a question? Okay, alright, quick off the mark then. Alright, so you begin. Tell us.
So, you think
Actually, sorry, just before you begin, maybe I should just, many of you are meeting maybe for the first time. So perhaps without going through my whole boring life story, at least just something about how I sit in front of you as this monk. So yeah, very, very briefly, because I think many of you we have also connected before. So I grew up in London, and I grew up in kind of, semi-religious family, but it was more cultural, traditional than anything more serious than that. Hey, Hare Krishna. Good, yeah. He's from London. When I was about 15, I started having a lot of questions of life. I don't know what it was, even to this day. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I just began questioning like what I was going to do in the future and what the point of it all really was. And so I thought to read the Bhagavad Gita because I had grown up with it, but I'd never read it. And so I went to the library and got 3 copies of the Bhagavad Gita out from different authors. And I came home and basically didn't understand any of them. And then a few weeks later, by Krishna's arrangement, I got Srila Prabhupada's Gita. This was when I was 15. And so then I read that Gita, and I didn't understand anything either. But when I read Prabhupada's Gita, it was very mystical because it was the first time I read a book, understood absolutely nothing, and thought, wow, this is an amazing book. It was a profound experience. Like, you read a book, you have no idea, but there was something in me that said, like, this is incredible. Like, but I'm gonna have to be patient. It's not cheap knowledge. I'm gonna have to be a little more. So then I remembered, I go to the temple and there's those guys in orange that kind of like, that you never approach, you know, that you just kind of look at from a distance. And well, maybe I should go ask these guys some questions. So it was the first time I then went to the temple and started asking the brahmacharis, the monks who were living there, questions. And that was really a dangerous moment, a defining moment. My dad actually said, don't get too close to those guys in orange. Those guys. I said, don't worry, I'm a balanced person. I'll be fine. And clearly you could see something that I didn't. And so that really changed and really got me interested because I found like these guys are amazing. These guys got an answer for everything. It's amazing. And then when I was 18, I went to university. I studied at UCL, University College London, and that was really interesting. I guess many of you are at university, and it was a really interesting time for me because I was exploring student life and what students do best. Having a good time, and at the same time I had this whole spiritual thing going on. So it was literally like I was living just behind Soho Temple, like London Temple. So it was literally like go for a night out and then go to Mangalarti. And it was like, I remember once being at Mangalarti and I was like, I was just in that place where people were dancing and I'm here, people are dancing, and this is completely different. This is like a different approach to happiness. So I was kind of juxtaposing these two approaches to happiness. And by the time by the end of my first year at uni, I was like, I've got to do something different. But the devotees encouraged me to finish my university and do well, which was actually really, really good. Although in the end, I never used my degree in a formal sense because I became a monk straight after. I'm still really happy that I did my degree and I studied, because I felt as though all the skills that I learned in studying, the discipline, all of that really helped me in my spiritual life as well. So I did end up graduating, but then I didn't do anything with it. Because I went to India when I was 21 and I ended up living there for 6 months in an ashram. And then I came back to London and decided I'll do this for a little bit longer. And then a little bit longer became 25 years. So that's a little bit of my humble life story. And I guess we all have our journeys, and it's interesting sometimes you can look back at your life and you can see that certain things happened, certain people you met. Sometimes you're going through moments in your life which are completely changing your life, but in the moment you have no idea. And then when you look back, you think, my God, that was a real defining moment. So it's very beautiful the way life goes. Krishna is always there. The moment you look at Krishna, the moment you open the door and say, Krishna, can you come into my life? Krishna comes in and he takes over everything. It's very beautiful, but Krishna becomes so much present in our life. My spiritual master, someone once asked him, have you ever seen Krishna? And he said, I've never seen Krishna's face, but I see his hand every single day. And so it becomes like that. Krishna consciousness is so real that you begin to feel like Krishna is doing. This really impressed me about the devotees. That when I met them, they would always say things like, oh, Krishna's playing a trick on us. Oh, Krishna's maybe telling us. Krishna, and I was like, for me this was mind-blowing, because I never thought of God as someone who was so active in your life. My concept of God was that he's up there, we're down here, you follow the rules, don't get him angry, he'll leave you alone, everyone's happy, just keep the peace, don't, and here they were talking as though like Krishna was their best friend. And Krishna's playing a joke on you, what are you talking about? And Krishna's God. And God plays a joke on you because he gets involved in your life when you open your heart to him. And so that was exciting for me. And I don't know if I can sit here and tell you that, yes, I have seen Krishna. But definitely, we can't doubt that Krishna is active and alert and attentive and affectionate and very much a part of our life. So that's very beautiful. So, yeah, it's a real adventure. All of us here in this room are on. And we all have to find our path. For me, this was the path. And for you, this could also be a path. We have vacancies if you're interested. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Whatever it is. This beautiful verse, Grihe Thako, Mane Thako, Sada Hari Bole Dako. You may live in the home, you may live in the forest, you may get a job, you may get married, or you may renounce the world, or in one sense it really doesn't matter. We're only here for a short time, so whatever position we accept it and accept all the benefits and the opportunities there, and we just try and give our heart to Krishna. And so, yeah, may all of you find your path. It's not easy actually. I'm kind of happy I'm 43 and I found my path. When you're 20 and you're trying to find your path, it's sometimes tiring, It's like, oh my God, I really don't know what about this and this. And is it her? Or is it her? All these decisions, it's not easy to make decisions, huh? Sometimes we're terrible at making decisions. But it's good that all of you have spiritual knowledge now, because then in all your decision making you can really think about how it's going to affect you in your long-term journey. So, yeah, it's a beautiful time, and I guess the last thing I'll say in this little pep talk at the beginning is just that don't be normal. Don't just try and fit in, don't just do what everyone else tells you should do, don't just follow the traditions of society. That doesn't mean you shouldn't follow or hear from other people or, try to look at other people's expectations of you. You can look at all of that, but don't forget to follow your own heart. Don't be afraid to be a little different. Because each soul is amazing and each person has an incredible ability and contribution to make to the world. And the biggest problem in this age that we're living in is that 99% of people are living outside of their dharma. 99% of people are not actually living their purpose. 99% of people have just settled for security and comfort, but are not actually unleashing the incredible potential that they have, because they're just following what society tells them is success, and therefore most people don't feel fully satisfied within themselves. So we have an opportunity to break free from that, and Krishna consciousness is that opportunity. Alright, those were some words, so yes, you can start us off. Yeah, can you say your name also?
So my name is Keshava. I met you in Vrindavan also.
Okay.
When you were there for that, I think 27th of March. Last time.
Wow, that's very precise.
Who can forget meeting you, Maharaj? So Maharaj, I had a thought every time I sit to chant. And it always comes to my mind that I am here now. When I was in India, I used to go to Vrindavan every month. But I'm here now, and I cannot go to Radharamanji. I cannot see him physically present in front of me. And every time I'm having a picture of him, I'm having his kopin, his langot that he wears, the Goswami gave me. Every time I'm in front of his picture, I think that why Krishna, why am I here and you are there? You're so far now. I cannot come to Vrindavan. So is it a good thought that should come into a mind of who is listening to lectures of Prabhupada, that we know Krishna is everywhere? Is it a good thought that should come into the person's mind who is trying to chant?
Clearly you're in Maya. You're totally out. So I don't know how familiar everyone is. Everyone's familiar with Vrindavan, Radharaman, these names are okay? No, not exactly. Yeah, okay, so let's just contextualize it. So Vrindavan is a very, very beautiful place. Vrindavan is the place where Krishna appeared here in this world 5,000 years ago. So Vrindavan is considered actually, although within the material world, it's actually considered a completely spiritual place. Spiritual places in Sanskrit are known as tirtha. Have you heard this word? Tirtha. The word tirtha means a bridge. So there are certain places in this world which are tirthas or holy places, and what they are literally is they are bridges to the eternal world. In other words, when you go to those places, although they seem to be within this world, you almost immediately begin to feel like you're in another world. It's kind of something like an embassy. Like, I don't know if you have an Indian embassy in Toronto, but the Indian embassy in London is like, it can be like -5 outside, and in the Indian embassy, like there's a fan on the wall. And then immediately, like none of the machines work. You immediately begin to think like, am I in India? No, we're in London. We're in the embassy. So there's a sense in which these holy places are powerful because immediately you feel yourself to be in another place. So therefore, pilgrims go to these holy places every year, thousands and thousands of them. And sometimes people at the end of their life, they will leave everything behind and just go to the holy place. And just say, I will live there now for the rest of my life, because they're preparing themselves to enter into eternity. So what better place to do that from than a tirtha? And so, Kanav has a connection with Vrindavan. He's very fortunate from his birth. He's been going to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, it's called the city of temples. So there are thousands of temples there. And each temple has a deity. And each deity has a personality. So there are different deities of Krishna. We understand that the deity is not just stone, but it's actually Krishna. And in different deities, Krishna manifests different personalities. So some of Krishna's deities are very, very charming. Some of Krishna's deities are very, very responsive, very active. For example, there's one deity of Krishna, Banke Bihari in Vrindavan, and this deity of Krishna never wakes up for Mangalarti. So in this temple there's no Mangalarti, because like Krishna's been out all night in the forest, like dancing. Like he doesn't wake up in the morning. So there's only one day in the year when Banke Bihari wakes up for Mangalarti, and that's Janmastami. Otherwise, he's like sleeping in, and then he emerges about 8, 9 a.m. in the morning. Hopefully none of you do. So each deity of Krishna is alive, each deity of Krishna has a personality. And there's one very beautiful deity of Krishna called Radha Raman. Radha Raman means Krishna who is always playing, who is always frolicking, we say in English, with his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani. So this deity of Krishna is very special. It's what we call a self-manifested deity. Have you ever heard of this? So there's, in India, in the Gandaki river, there is something called Shaligram Shivas. So these are like, they look like normal rocks, but they're actually understood to be the Supreme Person who's descended to this world in that form. But it's said that this deity of Radha Raman actually self-manifested from a Shaligram Shiva. So it's a very, very incredibly beautiful deity. There they cook for the deity, and it's said that the fire which has been lit to cook for that deity, the fire hasn't gone out for like 500 years or something. Like the same fire. It's amazing. So it's an incredible temple, it's an incredible tradition. And you are feeling separation from that Radha Raman, that when you see the picture of Radha Raman, then you think, what the hell am I doing in Toronto? I should be back there. And so you should. So sometimes we feel like that. We feel like, where am I? I feel very far away from Krishna. But even that is very, very beautiful. It's a very beautiful feeling. In Sanskrit, the word for separation is viraha. This is a Sanskrit word, you may have heard it. Viraha means separation. But did you know viraha has a double meaning? Raha comes from rahasya, which means confidential. And vishesha means special. So viraha means separation, but the double meaning of it is a very special and confidential type of meeting. Therefore, it's actually said, according to spiritual culture, that when we're separated from someone in our heart, then although we feel separated from them, almost paradoxically, it's a very, very close meeting of the heart. Have you ever felt that? Like sometimes you're very, very far away from someone, but you feel as though your heart is very, very close to them. And sometimes it can be the opposite. You're right next to someone, and you feel like 1,000,000 miles away. That's why we know, right? That's why we shout. Why do we shout when we're next to each other? You're right next to each other. Why are you shouting? Because our hearts have become so far away that we need to make up that distance. So, yes, separation is good. We should always be longing after Krishna. We should always desire to be with Krishna. And our relationship with Krishna is sometimes like that. Sometimes it feels a little far away. Sometimes it feels like we're not able to do what we want to do. But it's okay. If in your heart that makes you more eager, more enthusiastic, more desirous, then it's actually something very beautiful. So, yes, this is called loving separation. It said that the river of love for divinity flows along two banks. And one of the banks is known as Sambhoga, which means meeting, and the other bank is known as Vipralamba, or Viraha, which means separation. So the flow of the river of love flows through these two banks. And so sometimes in our life we feel separation, sometimes meeting. Thank you. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but just to contextualize it. All right. Should I read something from here? Yeah, I'll read one from here. And then we'll open it to. Okay, so I'll just start on the top. How to stop identifying people with their faults. Yeah, it's amazing. Now many of you also are living together. When you weren't living together, everyone looks like a saint. And then when you do live together, you're like, that person is so cool. You begin to see so many things in each other when you live together. I also lived in an ashram with 30 brahmacharis for many, many years, maybe 20 years. Nowadays I travel, which is good. For them than it is for me, I'm sure. I'm more annoying than them. But it's not easy. So, the first thing is that they say, oftentimes what happens is when it comes to other people's faults, we're like judges. And when it comes to our faults, we're like lawyers. Another time, one person, he came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, I just can't tolerate this person anymore. And Prabhupada said, you have to tolerate him just as I'm tolerating you. So we think, we have this notion that we're perfect, that everyone else is just, one day they'll catch up to me, you know, like, they just really like these guys, you know, I have to have my mercy on them, you know. We have this notion that often we don't see our own faults. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says the first thing we should do when we see other people's faults is we should see our own faults. And if we don't have those faults, we should look back and we should see, I used to have faults. I wasn't always over this. And therefore, then what happens is, instead of putting them lower than you begin to see, no, actually, we're not that different. I was also there. Maybe I am also still there. And so I think that's the first thing that helps. When we see the faults in others and then we make ourselves higher than them, then it blocks the relationship. But when we see faults in others, but we realize there's faults in me, then we can help another person. The second thing is, when we see faults in others, we should also try to see the good things. The tendency is, when we see a fault, that begins to dominate our consciousness, and we don't see the other 50 amazing qualities that someone has. And what happens is we magnify and amplify that fault so that it blinds us to every other good thing about that person. When two people were fighting in the ashram, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he would sit them together. And you know, they'd be like, we need to sort this out, we need to talk about this person. And he would say, yeah, just sit down, we'll talk about it. But before we talk about it, can you just say 3 good things about them? And then one person would say 3 good things about them, one person would say 3 good things about them, and it was kind of like, well, it's not so bad after all, you know? And he has also realized my glories as well, so he's a nice person. And so where we create communities where there is a culture of appreciation, isn't it? Someone can do like 50 good things and we will make a mental note. I've mentally noted it. They've done a good thing. But the moment they do something wrong, it's like, bam. But imagine if we would create a culture of non-envy, a culture of appreciation, a culture where we actually vocalize all the beautiful things that those people around us do. Then what would happen is, when we see the faults, we would see something different. There's actually when I was studying at university, there was a management handbook, and it was called Catch Your People Doing Something Right. Because what most managers or people do is they just catch their people doing something wrong. So yeah, these are some things we can do when we see faults in others. And ultimately we have to think Krishna forgives them. One of Krishna's names is Adoshadarshi. which means he who sees no faults. So Krishna, if we're going to be devotees of Krishna, then we should also follow in the footsteps of what Krishna does. And that is that they try to overlook, they try to always see something good. Shyam Sundar Prabhu, in the early days, he came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I've been like really stupid. I said, don't worry, we're all stupid. He said, no, Srila Prabhupada, I made a big mistake. I have to go to jail. I said, don't worry, Krishna was born in jail. Then he said, Prabhupada said, what was the crime? He said, I was dealing in drugs. I said, don't worry, I was also dealing drugs. Prabhupada was a pharmacist. Whatever he said, Prabhupada was very encouraging. So we have to try to be like this. The German writer Goethe, who says, treat someone as they are, and they will remain as they are. But treat them as they can and should be, and they'll become what they can and should be. It's beautiful, no? Like, imagine, instead of treating someone as they are, then they'll just stay like that. But if you try to encourage them, no, you're bigger than this, you're better than this, then they will rise. So we are not just passively seeing other people, we are actually active participants in another person's development. How you interact with others very much affects how they develop. So instead of seeing people's faults, we should try to help them overcome those faults. Easier said than done, but it's definitely a beautiful thing if we can do it. Alright, anyone else live on the floor? If you'd like to ask a question. Okay, yes. Your name, sorry?
Hi, I'm Cecilia.
Cecilia.
So I'm going to go kind of, unfortunately, very deep because I understand how Krishna and these beautiful name sources, different modalities, they're all thinking about forgiveness and how in forgiving others you can liberate yourself, right? I understand those things. What do you do when you have generational trauma of stuff that is like almost unforgivable sins like murder, pedophiles, that kind of stuff? Like, how does one come around to kind of forgiving those kind of?
You mean when you encounter that in people around you?
They're in your blood family. So I'm the one waking up to all the generational trauma stuff and trying to heal that, right? So I'm like, oh my, like how do you, like I understand the forgiveness and all that stuff, but it's like, how do you forgive things that are almost like the unforgivable sins? Because in my books, I'm sorry, you do harm to a child, you're a monster. And that's where I just can't seem to get my head around it. Like, how do you work around that? Sorry, anyways, then just because I understand, like, it's,
yes.
This is not my projection, obviously. Like, I'm not that monster. But I've been trying to figure out a way of forgiving things that have happened in my family lineage that I know that has created some ripple effect into my generation, into my family, into my life, and even into my nieces, which I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to stop it so it doesn't follow to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, sorry.
Thank you for being so open.
Sorry, sorry, deep, but I think we all have one weird double or another.
Sure.
Weirdness like that.
It's an important question.
Sorry,
We're surrounded by people. No, thank you. We're surrounded by people who sometimes do pretty, things which are, to some way, shape, or form, pretty shocking. And to just forgive them seems like very, very difficult. So how do we deal with that? Forgiveness is the direction in which we're trying to, is a destination which we're trying to reach. And it's not like all or nothing. We can move in the direction of forgiveness, you see. As good as forgiving someone is moving in the direction of forgiveness. So what we try to do, say for example, if there's someone who does something and you just can't come to terms with how they could have done that, at least what we can begin to do is try to help them. try to help them to be better.
That's
Right.
great when the people are alive.
Oh, okay.
When the people have passed on, my best remedy has been understanding what led them to be such toxic people
Yeah,
and
yeah.
forgiving that
So
and
that can
understanding
help.
root
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's getting still to the point of it's like, how do you forgive murder? How do you forgive these things kind of stuff? And it's like there's generational past stuff and then there's current stuff. So it's kind of one of those like,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. It's just there's one uncle who wants to talk to me and I'm never going to talk to him because he killed a friend. And I have to be friends with her on top of that. So it's one of those things where, sorry guys, it's in the news. I'm just too much.
Yeah,
It's one of these things where I'm like, I
so
don't know. I'd rather not talk to him instead of yelling at him. That's my
so if they're here, then we can try to serve them, try to help them, try to arrange some help for them. As I mentioned, we're not just passive observers, but we can try to do something. Anyone who does such things, they're the ones who are actually suffering themselves as well, to be in such a state of mind to do such things. So if they're here, we can do that. If they're gone, as you mentioned, we can try to understand what led them to that. Of course, that may not even pacify our minds, but at least we get some kind of context. And then the third thing we can do is just pray for them. Pray for them that they come to their good consciousness and they find a way out of this kind of very, very extreme material kind of illusion that covers them. So, yeah, this is what we're dealing with in the world today. So, I think these are some techniques you can try. Thank you so much. Thank you. Alright, should I move on from here? How do I stop comparing myself to others? I understand it all comes down to false ego, but I don't know what to do, how to build healthy confidence. So instead of, what we encourage people to do is, instead of comparing yourself to others, the comparative tendency is always there, so what you can do is redirect it to begin comparing with yourself. Instead of comparing this person is here and I am here, we can say 5 years ago I was here and now I'm here. And when we compare with ourselves, it's a much more useful type of comparison, because then it helps us to see what is our actual journey. When we compare with others, there's not actually any benefit you get from it, because everyone is on a completely different journey. Everyone had a completely different starting point, and everyone has a completely different configuration of personality, and therefore to compare with someone else will not actually give you any useful information in one sense of how you can be progressive. But if you compare with yourself and see how your progress has been going, then it becomes much more useful. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, the reason we compare with others is because we have the wrong definition of success. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that the goal of life is not to be the best. The goal of life is to try your best. And so if you can go to bed at night and say, I tried my best, I did everything within my capacity to do the best thing in the world, then you can go to bed at night and rest assured that you're 100% successful. But what happens in the world is we measure our success based on results. Your position in a ranking, your percentage in the test, your power in the movement, your popularity on social media, numbers. We define ourselves by numbers. Einstein once said, everything that can be counted doesn't necessarily count. And sometimes that which can't be counted counts for more. But what happens is we define ourselves by numbers, and then what happens is we become insecure, we begin to doubt ourselves, and then we begin to think, others are way better than me, there's something wrong with me, like that. So we have to try to avoid that mentality. So, yes, so these are, I guess, two immediate things. Number one, compare with yourself. And number two, change your definition of success. And the third thing I'd say is the other wrong mentality we have in our life that the material world has taught us is that if someone's winning, you're losing. We were kind of taught this in our life, that if someone's going higher, then that means I'm going lower. If someone's gaining something, then it means I'm losing something. If someone is glorified, then it means I'm kind of fading into obscurity. And therefore we have this kind of, whereas the spiritual understanding is that when someone's winning, if you're happy for them, and if you support them, and if you kind of share in their joy, then you also rise with them. It's amazing, isn't it? And so it's really a team game. We're not playing against each other, we're playing with each other. And therefore, every person's victory can be your victory as well. It's said that if someone has good qualities and you meditate on them, then you actually develop those good qualities. That's the thing. If someone is just has really good character, really good qualities, and in your mind you meditate on that and appreciate that and have genuine happiness for that person, then you actually develop those qualities. So it's like that. So that's another thing. It's a deviant mentality that we think we're hitched against each other. Alright, good. Someone live? Yes. Your name?
Kirtika.
Kirtika?
Kirtika.
Kirtika?
Yeah. So, it's just a funny question. Does Krishna take breaks from us? I don't know. Because I have been believing Krishna ever since, probably when I was 15, 16. And I've always been like, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And I was so happy when you started off your conversation saying Krishna is always there. So I did believe in that. And every problem that I have come across, I've absolutely solved it. So I just came out of it, and I know Krishna did it. But when in moments you feel there is no coming out of this darkness, like there is no light out there, I don't see coming out from this. I look for Krishna and I'm like, are you even here? Are you listening to me? Or I feel, are you angry with me? Did I make any mistake? So there are times when I don't pray on a regular basis. So I feel like, okay, maybe I didn't pray.
Krishna really there?
Yeah.
It's like this, when you go into an exam, when you go into the exam hall, is your teacher there talking to you through the exam? No, the teacher's quiet. Is that because the teacher has abandoned you? No, the teacher gave you all the lessons. The teacher gave you everything you needed. And now, the teacher is quiet in the exam, not because the teacher wants you to fail, but because the teacher now wants you to put everything that they've taught you into practice so that you can become successful. And then outside of the exam, the teacher's waiting there to congratulate you. So sometimes it feels in our life like, Krishna, where are you? And then you have to remember, I'm in the exam hall. Krishna's there, he's waiting, and he gave me all the lessons. He told me how to do the whole thing. And now I have to do it. Now I have to pass with flying colors. And then after that exam, we meet Krishna again. So, even when Krishna seemingly is not there, that is part of his expert reciprocation to bring us to a higher level of love. Silence is the art of conversation. They say the art of conversation is not just to say the right thing at the right time, but to leave unsaid the tempting thing, the wrong thing at the tempting moment. So we only measure God by what He does. Where is He? Where is He? What is He saying? What is He doing? But the art of conversation is also in silence. In silence, sometimes when God does nothing, He does everything. That's amazing. So, like that, Krishna is there. Alright, shall I go on to the next one? Is everyone okay? Like, how are we doing here? Like, do you need to take a stretch or? Okay. How do I stick to my initiation vows on the 3 stages? Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, lifelong. Wow, this sounds like sannyas. How can I be dedicated to serving my Guru Maharaj, my spiritual teacher? Okay. So everyone here is aware of initiation? Okay, initiation. It already sounds like a dangerous word. You take you into an alley and then like beat you up or something. So at a certain point in our spiritual journey, we may take something called initiation. In Sanskrit, this is known as diksha. So what is an initiation? It's basically doing what you've been doing, but just making a formal vow to do it. It's almost like when you're in a relationship, you've already been living with each other, you're already committed to each other, but then you get married. And you almost just make that vow till death do us part. And it's a formalization. So that's what an initiation is. It's a time when you basically formalize your commitment to Krishna. And generally what we do in initiation is that the 2 main vows that are taken are to chant 16 rounds and to follow the 4 regulative principles. I think all of you are aware. No eating, no gambling, intoxication. And no illicit sex like that. So how do we stick to these vows? And in Manasa, Vacha and Karmana. So this person is saying, how do I stick to them in Manasa, in my mind? In Vacha, in my words, and in Karmana, in all my activities. In other words, how do I stay chaste to these vows? Vows are easy in the beginning and easy at the end and very difficult in the middle. Because in the beginning, when you take the vow, it's like, I want to take the vow, I took the vow. And it's like, slowly goes down, you know, and the enthusiasm starts going down. And at the end, because you're so spiritually advanced, the vow almost becomes effortless. So in your maturity, it's very easy to follow the vow because you're advanced. And in your infancy, it's kind of easy to follow the vow because it's all just like fresh. But then in the middle, that's like what we call the graveyard. That's where there tends to be a lot of spiritual casualties because the freshness is gone and the taste hasn't come yet. So it's like, say for example, so like hold this up. Simple. Now can you hold it up for like the next 5 hours?
Difficult.
That's hard. Even though it's simple to pick it up, and it's not actually that heavy, to hold it for a long time can cause a lot of stress. And then when we make a vow and then we don't fulfill it, then it brings a lot of guilt. And that's also like very, very dangerous, because nobody likes to feel guilty. So how do we make sure when we take a vow that we can continue following it? The first thing is that we have to support the vow. And what that means is that we have to engage in the positive activities of Krishna consciousness which give us spiritual enthusiasm. When we are finding the joy, the happiness, the taste of spiritual life, then following the vows becomes kind of effortless. But when we're not experiencing that higher taste, then following these vows, which almost restrict us from the lower taste, start to feel a little bit limiting. I mean, like, I need something in my life, and because I'm not getting taste here, I need something. Okay, then I might have to break this and just get something. So the first way in which you maintain your vows is by constantly investing in the spiritual practices which will bring you joy, nourishment, fulfillment, and a higher taste. If you do that, then it will become much easier to follow the vows. The second thing, okay, maybe I'll approach this question in a slightly different way. There tends to be 3 situations in which people break their vows. Generally. 1 is stress. 2 is boredom. And 3 is loneliness. In these 3 situations, these are like the 3 general classic situations in which someone will break their vows. So boredom means you're not finding any joy, you're not finding any taste, you're not finding any connection. Stress means that your life becomes so unbalanced. There's too many demands on you. Life is becoming very, very intense. And then what happens in those situations is we almost feel like I need immediate release. And then what we tend to do to get that immediate release and relief is we just kind of go for some immediate sense enjoyment. And the third situation, interestingly, in which people break their vows is when they're lonely. When there's a vacuum in our heart, when we don't actually have deep relationships with other people, then what happens is that vacuum in the heart causes us to want to find some gratification somewhere else. And also loneliness causes one to break vows, because if you want to support your vows, you need to have openness and honesty with others. But oftentimes when we don't have those relationships where we can be honest, then what happens is we're just dealing with everything ourselves. And then what happens is it becomes too much. So we have to create also communities where there can be a lot of honesty. Because everyone is going through the same struggle, but everyone is thinking, I'm the only one. I'm surrounded by pure devotees. And it's only me, the crow amongst swans. And the next person thinks they're the only crow amongst the swans. And actually all of us, we're all going through it, because everyone struggles. We're in the material world, it's a place of struggle. So, yes, so think about these things. Stress, boredom, and loneliness. These are generally the danger zone. Alright,
Maharaj, we are almost out of
maybe
time.
2 more questions?
Yeah. Like you can summarize answer for all those questions. You can just.
These are very, very good. It goes from marrying a devotee girl to the sanctity of the body and worshipping your father and mother is spanning a lot of Shiva Tattva. Do you have another group?
Yes, Maharaj. I've observed that there's a hesitancy, a discomfort with expressing concerns about spiritual authorities, whether they're a managerial authority, a temple leader, or an ashram leader, even a spiritual teacher, a guru. So, can you explain how we can, in a respectful way, in a healthy way,
So sometimes there are authority figures in our life, in whatever way, shape or form that may be, and sometimes we feel like we can't question, even when we see something that don't look right. What do we do about that situation? In Kali Yuga, there's 2 diseases. Disease number 1 is that we question everything. And disease number 2, followers question everything. And disease number 2 is leaders do questionable things. So that is a recipe for problems there. So the first thing is that we should also firstly be aware that sometimes we have a very unnecessarily critical mind that can also be there. Like I was mentioning, sometimes someone can do 50 good things and then they do one bad thing and it was like, I knew it. I knew it all along. And now they've proved it to me. But we don't see the good. So I think first thing is we should just do a little bit of self-introspection to ask ourselves, is my information correct? Number 2, is my information in perspective? Because our tendency is that we want to be independent. And so whenever there's someone who's an authority who shows themselves some weakness, then we immediately justify it to be independent again. So just one point as like a preliminary point, that before you decide to do whatever you do with your doubt your doubt healthily. But then sometimes you may see that no, there's actually a problem here. Someone is not doing what they're meant to do, and it could cause harm to others. So do we just be quiet? No, then we have to speak. But there's a way to speak. So you have to ask yourself certain questions. Am I the person who should speak? Yes. Okay, check 1 done. Am I the person who should speak? Yes. Should I speak now? Is now the right time? Yes. Check number 2. Okay. I'm the right person to speak and now's the right time. What's the best way to communicate it in such a way that it will have maximum benefit? Check number 3. So generally, if you do that kind of check, and you raise things appropriately, that's what healthy communities are made of. One day we'll all be leaders, if you're not a leader already, and then we will need people to give us feedback. So healthy communities mean that you give feedback and you're also open to receiving feedback. But that feedback should be given in the most appropriate way. Otherwise, it may not actually help the person and it may alienate and break down the relationship. Nowadays, the way people give feedback is very, just like www.instagram.com. It's like put it out there in the ether for the whole world to see without any context. So we have to be very, very careful how we raise things. Like that. Does that help? Alright, is anyone in the room dying? Not dying, hopefully. Dying to ask a question? That was very graceful. Someone is dying to ask a question. But yes, we accept that you are eager. Yes, okay, you get the last question. Go for it.
Thank you. I'm Asta.
Asta? Okay.
My question
That's
is.
a TV channel, right?
My question is that, like, sometimes I feel a lot of like spiritual jealousy, not material jealousy. I feel like in the material world, when we come to the material world, Krishna comes with us, like he's in our heart. But if I go back to the spiritual world, there are like billions of devotees. So like, will Krishna give? Will he even be able to give me time? There are way more devotees even than here.
So Krishna is in the spiritual world with unlimited devotees, and then sometimes we think that's really nice, but when we look at the amazing thing is Krishna is already with you. In the beautiful Sanskrit verse it said, Ishvara sarva bhutanam vidyasa arjuna tisthiti brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarupani mayaya. Krishna says, I'm dwelling in everyone's heart as the super soul. And I travel with them on this journey, directing their wanderings through this world. So there's not a question of, is Krishna looking at me or not? Krishna's been looking at you since time immemorial. In another verse it said, Upadrashta Anumanta Cha, that Krishna is the overseer and the permitter. So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that he's not a distant God, he's a very close God. And he's so close that he's in your heart. Right there. And if you learn to talk to Krishna, then you will see that he is extremely interested. There's this beautiful picture of Krishna taking lunch with the cowherd boys. Maybe you've seen that picture. And Krishna, they're all in a circle, and Krishna's right in the center. And it's explained by the teachers that the incredible thing is that everyone thinks Krishna is looking at him. How is that possible? You can try doing it, sit in a circle and go right in the middle and then look at everyone simultaneously. Impossible. But Krishna can, because Krishna is unlimited. So Krishna is hungry. He's hungry for love. And anyone who has love, Krishna has to come, because he's hungry for that. His hunger for love can never be satiated. And therefore anyone who engenders genuine love, they immediately imprison Krishna in their heart. And Krishna has no power. Krishna says, once there was a conference of the sages, so they were trying to find out who's the greatest. So one sage said the sky is the greatest because it covers everything. And then another sage said, no, the clouds are greater because they can cover the sky. And then another sage put his hand up and said, no, the wind is greater because the wind can move the cloud. And then another sage put his hand up and said, no, the mountain is greater because it can stop the wind. And then another sage put his hand up and said, no, the earth is greater because it's holding the mountain up. And then another sage put his hand up and said, no, God is greater because God is holding the earth. And then God himself appeared and said, no, no, my devotee is the greatest because he's imprisoned me within his heart. So, if you have love, Krishna will definitely come. So that's what we're praying for. The wealth of love. Is that okay? Alrighty. So thank you so much. I strategically stopped because the next question was, I want to marry a devotee girl. And it's taking some. I felt highly unqualified to answer this question. We will do that next time. I don't know when the next time will be, but good luck. I'm sure it will go in my time. Krishna arranges it. Thank you so much, everyone. Srila Prabhupada.
So let's Keshava Swami Maharaj ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So we have 4 of Maharaj's books available on the side there. The prices are on there. We have Book Bhagavad, which is a compilation of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj has very beautifully compiled all 12 cantos into this book. There's some amazing diagrams there, some acronyms there as well, which help us go through what can be quite a complex compilation. Maharaj makes everything so simple. We then have Tattva. So if you don't already follow it, Maharaj has an incredible blog online. And Tattva is a compilation of his blog, as well as some expanded points from there. Today we had a session on question and answers. The whole of Tattva is in question and answer form. So many of the questions which Maharaj hasn't answered, maybe even the one about finding a wife, that's what's there. And then we've got Gita Free. So Gita Free is a very practical workbook. There's exercises for you to do in there. Take a pen with you. They're very, very practical. We've used them in loads of different seminars and workshops, and highly, highly recommend that as well. And finally, but definitely not least, we have Gita Life. Gita Life is a compilation of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Maharaj has very beautifully put it into acronyms. So all of the chapters are broken down into different acronyms, and he again describes the main points in this very short book. So we have these 4 books available. We ideally would prefer if you were paying card. We have a card reader, contactless Apple Pay, like that. Otherwise we do accept cash, but yeah, if you've got a card, please do that. We recommend you take as many books as you can. You can see we don't have so many there. Get them as quickly as you can. And your Maharaj will hopefully be available for a little bit of time to sign them, if anyone would like. Any other announcements?
One thing, the books are genuinely limited. Last time when Maharaj came, we ran out of books. So if you do want to get your hands on them, please get them as soon ASAP as possible.
Sure, and we'll take, I guess, a group photo of the